Good morning, dear students.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, welcome to OMDP online class. With all this, I want to share that we have completed module 2. Okay, in the previous class, we have completed the module 2. So, we have completed module 1 and module 5 also. So, now today I am going to focus on module 3. Okay, so module 3. So what is this module 3 is going to tell us about system devising a high level concept, system conception, then different type of life cycles we are going to adopt in software development. So all those things we are going to discuss. So I'm going to share the PDF for all of you. So kindly go through this. Okay. Can you see the PDF, dear students?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So now today we are going to discuss some concepts related to the process overview, then about system conception and domain analysis. Okay. So these are the major concepts which are going to come under the module 3. So now, so under the process overview, we are going to make some discussions related to the stages of development, like software development stages. Under that, we are going to also we are making some discussions related to the life cycles, like we have iterative cycles, waterfall models, and all those things. Next, we are going to discuss some concept related to system conception. Conception means conceiving, or we are going to consider some of the data related to the system to be implemented in the future. Next, we are going to make a strategy. Okay, so this strategy can be built by devising a concept. Okay, system concept, so called as elaborating. Elaborating means elaborating it, making more and more details on that. Okay. Next, preparing a problem statement. Next, we have already discussed some concepts. Next, accordingly which we have to define a problem statement, so that if you understand the problem, then only you can solve it. So that is why. Next, after that, we are going to discuss on domain analysis, means what kind of data we are going to consider. Then domain class model, then we have domain state model and domain interaction model, and iterating the analysis. All these things we are going to make some discussions in the module 3. So first one is process overview. ಏನಪ್ಪ process overview ಅಂದ್ರೆ a software development process. Process overview is nothing but it's a development process. Okay. It provides a basis. It provides ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ in order to organize the production of software. I want to develop a software. I want to develop an application. So what kind of process I have to follow ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ important. Like the production of software using a collection of predefined techniques and notations. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ನಾನು ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ I can go, or I have to follow any methodology or a built-in technique or built-in process. What we have to follow is called as the predefined techniques ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So under that we have stages, development stages. It is as similar as our SDLC, that is software development life cycle. Software development life cycle ನಿಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರ್ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಓದಿದ್ದೀರಾ. Like we have analysis, we have design, we have implementation, ಮತ್ತೆ testing and maintenance. So ಇದು software development life cycle. what we have already discussed in the SC. But same concept we are going to consider in OMDP also. We call this as a development stages. Okay, so adana now development stages anta karita iddivi. So first one ಏನಪ್ಪ system conception ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ ನಿಮಗೆ conceiving or gathering the data, conceiving the information, accumulating the data. So conceive an application and formulate the tentative requirements. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಕನ್ಸೀವಿಂಗ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲೇಟ್ ಒಂದು ಜನರಲ್ ಐಡಿಯಾನ ನೀವು ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಬೇಕು, ಒಂದು ಫಾರ್ಮುಲೆ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಬೇಕು. ಅಂಡ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ದ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಗ್ಯಾದರ್ ಅಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜಸ್ ಆರ್ ಟೆಂಟೇಟಿವ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಟೆಂಪರರಿ. ವಿ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಪ್ರೋನ್ ಟು ಚೇಂಜ್. ಈಗ ನೀವೊಂದು ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಪ್ಪ, ಆ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಏನ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ, ವೆದರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಪರ್ಮನೆಂಟ್, ನೋ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಒಂದು ಬ್ಲೈಂಡ್ ಆಗಿ ರ್ಯಾಂಡಮ್ ಆಗಿ ನೀವು ಡೇಟಾ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಆ ಡೇಟಾ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗೋ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಗಳು ತುಂಬಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಪಾಸಿಬಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದೀಸ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್, updation of these requirements. So that is why we call these requirements as tentative or temporary. Okay, so this process, that is gathering the information about the application and formulating a requirements, the temporary requirements, together we call this as system conception. Once system conception is over, means what I have to do, what kind of application I have to develop, and what kind of requirements I need. Once I define this, next process, next step is go for analysis. Let me know if someone is waiting. Kindly inform me if someone is waiting. Nanige inform ಮಾಡಿ. Fine. So after this we shall go for analysis. So what is analysis? What we have already studied in SDLC. Analysis andre ಏನು? It is nothing but making a detailed study on a given concept is called as analysis. That is deeply understand the requirements by constructing the models. Now I want to understand, before I am going to implement a system, I must understand the system in all the dimensions. In order to do this, you have to understand the requirements. So understanding the requirements, it needs analysis requirement statement. And this analysis requirement statement, it will be generated by the analyst. Then who is analyst? An analyst is a person who has excellent communication skills. He will convey the requirements from the end users to the developers, because developers, they will only be involved in the software domain. They will speak hi-fi English. They never know how to speak with the local language with respect to the end users. On the other hand, we have end users who can speak only in their native language. They don't have any domain knowledge. In order to convey the information, it is very difficult for these people to make some conversation. So that is why we need a translator, third party, who can translate the information from end user to the developers and vice versa. So these persons we can call them as analyst. These persons, analysts, they will play a significant role. Okay, they will play a significant role in the phase of analysis, because they are the one who is responsible for gathering the tentative requirements, collecting the information from the end users, and conveying these information. And they will represent all this information in the form of a requirement analysis statement. And this statement can be forwarded to the developers or maybe some designers who will design the adequate amount of models based on the requirements which is gathered in the analysis phase. Okay, so that is what all about analysis. That is deeply understand the requirements by constructing the models. Now once the analysis phase is over, next we shall go for the system design. So what is this system design? In a file system design andre devise the architecture. Devise the architecture means design a particular diagram, architecture diagram, whether you are going for a 3-tier architecture like ANSI or Spark architecture, what we have already made discussions on in DBMS. Okay, 3 scheme architectures. And in coming back to the object-oriented modeling design patterns, in patterns module 5, I have explained very first concept, that is called as a particular architecture. Can anybody tell me what is that architecture? MVC. What is MVC? Can you explain what is
Model
expansion?
view controller.
Very good, excellent.
Model
Okay,
view controller.
fine, Kanapa. Very good. Thank you. So now model view controller. Now whether we have to adopt two-tier architecture, whether we have to go for model view controllers or we have to go for three schema architecture. So this is the process of decision. Okay. So there is a dilemma. And this team, the software development team, they will decide whether we'll go for three schema architecture or it is better to shift MVC architecture or any other architectures. Okay. So this is the process. That is the stages where we have to take some decisions. Okay. So called as system design. Once system design is over, the next phase we will jump into the class design. So I think I have already explained a lot of things about class design. Class design is nothing but process of designing the classes. Okay, determine the algorithms for realizing the operations. In class design, class diagrams you have to consider. So a class diagram is nothing but a rectangular structure with the three compartments. The first one represents the name, second one represents states or attributes, the third one represents behavior or operations. Okay. Then if there are two classes, there is a relationship between the two classes. We can call them as a association. Since only two participating classes are involved, it's a binary association. If more than two, it may be a ternary or maybe n-ary association. If there is a hierarchy like parent and child classes, we are going to use generalization as an association. If there are interfaces and subclasses, we are going to use realization as one of the association. And if there is a part of a relationship, we are going to use aggregation as a relationship. Composition is another form of relationship. So many different type of associations we have, and all these things we have already discussed it, I think, in the lab also. Okay. So next, after this class design is over, in class design, the very important concept is how to identify the classes, because you have statement. So based on the requirement analysis statement in design, how to design the class diagrams means a class diagram means you have to identify the nouns. So please remember this. I will ask this question in my upcoming sessions. Okay. So you can identify the classes by using noun phrase approach. Noun, N-O-U-N, a grammatical concept, English grammar. Okay. Noun means nama padanta naukiritivi. In particularly, we are going to use common nouns. So these common nouns, there are so many ways. I think proper noun, common noun. You have already studied all these things in your graduation, maybe in English. Okay. Now coming back to this, so every class diagram can be identified by using the common noun phrase approach. How this common noun phrase approach can be deployed in order to identify the classes, that I am going to discuss in my upcoming sessions. Next, after the class design is over, next is implementation. Implementation, I want to implement means I want to perform the coding. I want to perform the programming. So in order to do this, once the model has been generated, what you people will do in the star UML? You are going to select the models, right click on that, generate the code. Means you are going to implementation. So coding is very important. So translate the design into appropriate programming code, and as well as you can use the databases. Database structures are nothing but schemas. Next, we have testing. Whether your product, whatever you have developed, it will work best for all kinds of input. Yes?
Sir, Asma is waiting, sir. Please allow her, sir.
ಏನಪ್ಪ?
Asma wait ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಸರ್, ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅಲೋ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್.
ಓಕೆ, ಅವರು ಲಿಂಕ್ ಕಳಿಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಿ. ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.
ಓಕೆಪ್ಪ. Next, of course, the implementation means converting this design into appropriate programming language. Okay. So once you have testing means you have to ensure that whether the application will work for all kinds of inputs. So different type of inputs, if you give, sometimes it may generate some errors or bugs. So how to overcome this? So thoroughly perform the validation. For example, if you are giving mobile number as an input, Only 10 digits has to be given. Okay. In the name field, you cannot enter the numeric. In the age field, you cannot enter textual information like that. Okay. Training. So my job, I have developed an application. I will deploy it to the end user. My job is over. No, you cannot tell like that. Okay. So training, you have to periodically visit the end user site, and you have to give some adequate amount of training. Okay, to the end users, means how to use the tool. So what are the configuration files? How to start the application? How to perform the configuration methods? So if some abnormal situation arises, if some abnormal things happens, so maybe some exceptions, how to overcome. Next, how to remove the temporary files. Okay. So all these things you have to give some kind of training for the end users. So next, after this deployment means place the application in the field of gracefully cut over the time legacy application. Legacy applications means existing application, or what we can say old application. So this old application has to be replaced with a proposed system, new system. So this process is called as deployment. Andre ನೀವು end user place ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರ್ ನ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲ್ ಮಾಡೋದು our system ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Okay, that is deployment. That is a process. The last phase of this process overview or development stages is the maintenance. So you have to periodically visit the end user site. You have to thoroughly verify whether the application is working fine, whether any temporary files or garbage files, you have to remove them. So this is the job, this is the responsibility you have to take. Okay, so this is called as a maintenance. You have to preserve the long time viability, means you have been bound to do that duty. Okay, that is viability with respect to the application. So next, analysis. So now we are going to consider one by one step in detail. So what is analysis? Already I have explained orally. So now we are going to take this in detail. So analysis is nothing but to specify what must be done. So what kind of things we have to do and what kind of data we have to collect. Okay. So under this, the first process is a domain analysis. Domain analysis means it only focuses on real world things, because whatever the application, the projects what you are going to do, you have to always collect the data from the outside world, the real world. Okay. So it simulates the real world environment and using the appropriate semantics or rules which are there in the outside world. So domain analysis, it focuses on the actual system which is working in the real world. Next, application analysis means it addresses the computer aspects of the application that are viable to users. Means domain analysis means real world. Application analysis means it is only related to the computer domain, means what kind of databases you are going to use, how many tables you are going to create, then what kind of models, for example, UML diagrams, or it may be DFDs, or it may be ER diagrams you are going to use. So it focuses on computer aspects. So in nature, domain analysis and application analysis, they are contradictory, means they are opposite to each other. Next, system design. So what is system design? So you may get a question in the exam. Discuss system design with a neat diagram. Okay. So in that aspect, you have to define this one. Okay. And system design is nothing but a strategy. Strategy and how to tackle a problem, how to overcome the problem. Okay. So devise a high-level strategy. That is, you have to choose an architecture. It is maybe a 2-tier or it may be MVC, whatever it is, in order to solve a particular problem. The choice of architecture is based on the requirement as well as the past experience. How to decide whether which kind of architecture we have to adopt, whether you have to go for MVC, 2-tier, 3-tier, etc. So this can be done by using the existing experience, because you may be encountered similar kind of situation in the past. So based on those experiences, you can identify the best problem solving technique, that is the architecture. So once you have done that, the next phase is class design. So designing a class diagrams. Of course, here the focus, that is emphasis, will be given on the application concepts towards computer concepts. Means convert the application concepts into appropriate models. Next, After that, you have to choose the algorithm, means you have to choose the coding which best suits the given application. Now, coming back to the development life cycle, software development, SDLC, we have two popular techniques. I think you have studied all these things maybe in your software engineering. Like we have a waterfall model, and as well as iterative development. So now, what is this waterfall model? So what is this waterfall model means? Here we have to, here the requirements or whatever the problems what we are going to consider like this. It will be represented in a diagrammatic manner. Like the stages in this particular development life cycle are very rigid in nature. Rigid andre it is not going to be a flexible, okay? And it is always a linear fashion, means whatever the data what we are considered in one particular phase, it will be transformed to the next phase, okay? And there is no backtracking here, so only you have to go ahead. There is no comeback. So that may be also considered as one of the drawback also. So the stages in the rigid linear sequence will be as here. There is no backtracking, and suitable for well understood applications with the predictable outputs from the analyst. See, just go through here. So first phase of the software development lifecycle, always it is going to be an analysis. So this is an analysis, okay? Once the analysis is completed, requirement specification means we have to identify we have to generate a statement so-called as a requirement specification statement. Now, once this particular statement has been designed, next we shall go for design. Okay, so design means you have to design a model. Either it may be a UML model, it may be a ER diagrams, a DFD, whatever it is. So design focuses on models. Now, based on the class diagram, for example, if I have designed a class diagram, now implementation, based on this, we are going to generate the code, maybe Java, or it may be .NET, or it may be any Python, any programming, high-level programming languages can be used for implementation. Then once it has been coded, you have to test it, okay? Testing, and we have to perform the testing, okay? So once the test is over, so maintenance, operation and maintenance. So the last step is operation and maintenance. Suppose, what is the drawback here? Why we call this as a waterfall? Because see here, if it is just like a mountain and water is falling like this, okay? So, and the flow of these phases is just like a water flow from the mountain. So that is why the word has been used, recoined the waterfall model. And the major drawback of this model is there is no backtrack. If some bug is there, you cannot go back to design and you can repair it. If there is some bug in design, you cannot go back to the requirement specification so that you can debug it, okay? So that is one of the major drawback of this waterfall model. So that is why it is called as a rigid linear sequence with no backtracking. Rigid andre idu flexibility illa illi. Backtracking andre one phase inda innond phase ge vapas hogodike barodilla. You have to always go forward. There is no backward direction movement. So that is why it is one of the drawback anta kuda ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಈ drawback na ನಾವು ಯಾವ ತರ overcome ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? How to overcome this drawback? It is going to another type of life cycle, so called as a iterative. The name itself will tell everything. Iterative andre ಏನಪ್ಪ? Iteration, it is one of the word which is closer to the loop. Loop andre ಏನು? It will be repeatedly executed. ಹೌದಾ? ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರಿಪಿಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೋ ಇಟರೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ರಿಪಿಟೇಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? One step, last step, coming back to the first step, once again last step. So this process will continue until a particular criteria has been reached, okay? So first develop the nucleus of a system, means identify the core part of the system, because nucleus is nothing but the core part of the system. Then grow the scope of the system, means identify the scope. So there are multiple iterations, okay? As these systems evolve, final deliverable, means there are multiple iterations, can also be possibilities are there. Next, each iteration includes a full complement of stages. So what are the stages? Analysis, design, implementation, and testing. Same thing. So you can see this is a very good diagram to illustrate the iterative model. So first one is analysis, and first one is this one, sorry, requirement. So once we have a planning, so based on the planning, okay, we have a based on the planning, we are going to devise some of the requirements, and this requirement will be, so this is initial planning. So we'll start from here. This is initial planning. So we are planning, we have identified the requirements. Once the requirements have been identified, go for analysis and design. Go for analysis and design. Next, once a design is completed, next it is for implementation. Implementation. And once the implementation is over, we have to perform the testing. We have to perform the testing. Okay. If it is tested, so testing can be repeatedly done by evaluation, means self-assessment. So evaluation can be also done, repeated testing will be done. If something goes wrong, once again you have to replan, once again you have to perform reanalysis. If it is correct, if it works for all kinds of inputs with respect to the end users, whether it is up to the mark, it is easy to execute, then you can deploy. So this is the final stage. So it that is why. So now this is the another problem. So system conception, summary of development process of the organized production of software. Okay. So system conception, I already heard the system conception. So it is nothing but conceiving an application, identifying the tentative requirements. So here we have to identify the users, who are the end users and who are the developers team. Okay. And who are the managers and who are the business experts. Means this process always focuses on identifying the users. ಈಗ DBMS ನೀವು ಓದ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ actors on the scene, workers behind the scene ಅಂತ. Okay. So there we are going to consider different categories of users ಅಲ್ವಾ ಆತರ. So this space goes here. Next analysis ಬರುತ್ತೆ. So analysis ಅಲ್ಲಿ we have to perform domain analysis and application analysis. Domain analysis focuses on the real world concepts, that is users, and we are going to perform some interviews. Application analysis is focused on related systems by using existing experience. So these two we are going to consider here. Then coming back to the design, we have a architecture diagram, means MVC, two-tier, what kind of things. System design, we have to define this. Next, in class design, we are going to design the class and algorithms, and we are performing optimization with the different type of use cases. So, okay. So these three things will be taken. So the input for this analysis will be through the system conception, and the input for the design, this is the design concept, will be from analysis, and this will be taken in the final, that is class design will be taken at the end. So this is another diagrammatic representation of devising a system conception. Okay, dear students, so I will continue in the next class. The system conception in the next class continue ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು. So is it enough?
Yes, sir.
Dear students?
Okay, sir.
Okay, another one thing. Sandha madam wants to discuss few concepts, very few minutes, maybe 15 minutes related to PCRW. So I will just inform the Sandha madam. They will share the link. So now I request all of you to give your attendance in the chat box. Chat box ಅಲ್ಲಿ attendance ಅನ್ನು ಹಾಕಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ.